Okay, the broadcast
Thank you all.
has begun.
Thank you all for joining us this afternoon for how to communicate with your constituents using Facebook Live. My name is Mark Levine. I am the Deputy Director of the New York State Association of Counties, and I'm pleased to be with you here today. In this time, when it is perhaps more important than ever for county leaders to communicate with residents because of social distancing and practicing self-quarantining, we don't have the traditional interpersonal communication tools that we normally have at our disposal. What we do have are social media tools, and some counties are using these tools, particularly Facebook Live, to communicate with the media, residents, and businesses in their communities. One of these counties, Ulster County, has had a lot of success in this realm, and they will be joining us today to talk about their experience. And we thank County Executive Pat Ryan and his Communication Director, Jasmine Kay, for sharing their experiences. This webinar is designed to show you how to host a Facebook Live town hall in your county to talk to your residents about what is happening locally with the COVID-19 pandemic. We encourage you to keep communicating with your residents. We all need to be communicating through these times of uncertainty for residents, businesses, and local government officials. We want to thank and welcome John Summers from Summers Strategies for bringing this webinar to us all here today. John has been working with NYSAC through this crisis and helping us develop and deliver some timely resources for our member counties. I would now like to turn it over to John Summers.
Thanks so much, Mark, and thanks to all of you for joining us today, and look forward to not only walking you through sort of the reasons for hosting Facebook Live town halls, but also some of the best practices and easy ways to get started really right away. But I think one of the first things we want to talk about is why Facebook Live. And I think there are three main reasons to look at. For one, people are looking for information and transparency from credible sources. Now, you know, there might be some people who may be going through burnout, and we all know that there's information that's constantly coming, but not everything that matters to people, not everything that matters to constituents is making it, you know, as I've been saying, sort of above the fold, particularly resources that are available, announcements from the White House, that sort of thing. And, you know, again, we talked about how they're looking for information and transparency from trusted resources. And as we know, there is, setting aside any sort of partisanship, there is a trust deficit within the White House, and that's where people are really relying more heavily on state and local officials such as yourselves. Second, connection. This is where people are. 69% of Americans are on Facebook. You know, things certainly shift around when you look at different age demographics and that sort of thing, but 7 out of 10 Americans are on Facebook. So it's one of the easiest ways to reach them. It's also, frankly, very easy on the presenter side of things as well as on the user side of things to hop on a Facebook Live. That said, there are some other options if Facebook Live isn't necessarily your cup of tea. YouTube provides opportunities to go live. There's Periscope, IBM Video, which used to be known as Ustream, and another company called Livestream, as well as a few others. So getting into the message, you don't ever, just like you wouldn't start an interview with a reporter without knowing what it is you want to say or what you want readers or listeners to get out of your interview, you don't want to go into a Facebook Live unprepared either. You want to make sure you know what your goal is. Your goal can be, in this particular situation, making sure people know the resources that are available, calming fears, or maybe even just making sure that you're there for a basic Q&A, Q&A session. But you want to make sure that you know your goal right up front. And since you're always going to be delivering a message off the top, you know, some opening remarks, you want to make sure you write talking points that keep you focused, make sure you don't forget your thoughts, keep you from rambling or forgetting what you meant to say. But you don't want to write a script, because as soon as you write a script and you start reading from that script, it sounds a lot less authentic, and that's and a lot less uninteresting as well. And that's a big mistake on social media. People expect and have become accustomed to authenticity on social media, and particularly during these live events. So this is a great example of a Facebook Live town hall. This is by the governor of New Jersey. It was done about a year ago. And there's a lot that you can get out of it just by looking at this picture. You can see how the camera is oriented. You can see the backdrop. We'll talk more about some of these details about how to make it look good in just a couple minutes. But everything is set up really exactly the way you want it to be. But also notice that while it looks like they're using some production equipment, like you see the professional microphones there as well, it also still looks, it doesn't look too highly produced, right? It looks like it's something that's taking place in someone's office, that's happening in real time, and that's okay. And that's particularly okay, in this environment that we're in right now, where people are getting used to seeing live interviews on TV from people using Skype. So there's even more forgiveness for a lack of something that you might otherwise want to produce in a more polished manner. People are a little bit more forgiving of that. So the first thing you want to do when you decide you want to do a Facebook town hall and you're ready to get the word out is you want to come up with a good title and a compelling description, because that's what's going to be shared on the Facebook post. So you can see the part here that I circled in red. That's your description. I would tell you the one thing that's missing from this is the date and the time. And when we talk about promoting your Facebook Live town halls, you want to make sure that whatever the platform, and whether it's your first post about it or your fifth post about it, you always want to make sure you have the date and the time. I would say that's the one mistake that we see here. But other than that, he explains exactly what it is you're looking for. And something else that he also did is created a hashtag. And in this case, since it's around the state of the state, he called it State of the State NJ. You want to do that for any of these, so people know where to find it, and they know where they can pick up additional comments or content that might be posted related to that hashtag. So that's really important. It's a great way to organize the submission process of your questions as well. So it doesn't do any good to have a town hall if no one's there. So you want to make sure that you're promoting it as much as you can. I already made the point that you need to make sure you include the day and time in every single post. But you also want to make sure that you're promoting it across all of your social media platforms. And you want to do it multiple times and with varying content. So, we're talking about promoting this, even though it's on Facebook, you can still promote it on Instagram, Twitter, any other, social media platform that you're on. Promote it there, promote it many times. And again, do it with varying content. So for example, in one post, you could say something simple like, join me as I talk about Westchester County's response to coronavirus. Maybe the next one could be something along the lines of, how will coronavirus affect Westchester County's economy? Join me for a live Facebook town hall at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Another one could be, want to know how you can help people in need in our county? Join me for a live town hall. So those are 3 different posts promoting the same thing. So that way you're not just posting the same thing over and over and over again, leading to burnout on your followers. But you're also giving people an opportunity to know exactly what they can expect if they do decide to join your town hall. This can vary depending on how you feel about it, but media advisories are certainly a good thing to put out. It's always good for the local media to know that you're out there, calming people's fears in this case, providing them useful information, being transparent and accessible in a period where it's very hard to directly reach people, and we certainly can't see them face to face. So media advisories are good. to put out for things like this. And then, of course, when it's all over, putting out a press release letting media know where they can watch it, because these can be recorded directly on Facebook, so people can watch it at a later time, even if they weren't able to join in person, and letting them know how many people also happen to join, particularly if you have an impressive number. And you could also, even highlight some of the top questions that people had, right? So, I think we've all heard, if one person asks a question, that means that 10 other people probably have the same question. I think that applies in this case as well, although that 10 number is probably even higher. So let's move into the logistics of actually getting it set up. So we've told you what you need to include in the description and all of that, but how do you actually get started? It's just like creating any other social media or any other post that you would on Facebook. So you click the, create a post tab, and that opens window number 1. And normally in that spot, you would either click photo or video to upload, or you would just write out a post and hit enter. But in this case, what you want to do is click those 3 dots on the right-hand side where the red arrow is pointing. And when you do that, below you see even more options. And one of those options, again where the red arrow is, says live video. When you click that, that'll open, whoops, did I not get a screenshot of that? Sorry, I thought I included a screenshot. I apologize. So after you click the live video thing, another window will open, and it'll give you the option to select live video, or you can schedule a video. And that's also, again, where you would create the name and the description of your live town hall. And then on the right-hand side will be the settings of the video. That'll include the camera selection. So if you have an external camera you want to hook up to a computer, or if you just want to use the webcam that's on your laptop or your desktop, you can do it directly from there. And then you can give people the option whether to give people the ability to post comments or not. Obviously, in a town hall setting, you do want them to be able to post questions because that's the only way you'll be able to interact with them. It's not like a conference call or a webinar or anything like that where multiple people can come on and ask questions using their camera or their telephone. The only way they'll be able to do it in this format is in the comment section, which is kind of nice because that gives you the ability to control the questions that you're asking. I would say, though, don't avoid the difficult questions, particularly if those difficult questions are being repeated. You want to make sure that you're answering those, even if they're a little bit uncomfortable. And I think that's all I want to say for that. Once you're there and you're ready to go live, some things to keep in mind that'll keep you looking good and sounding good. One, you obviously want to dress the part. Consider the environment that you're in. If you're in an office versus, out at a school when the school opens back up, because you can do a Facebook Live from anywhere if you want. Consider your environment. Sometimes it makes sense to wear a suit jacket, and sometimes it looks better just to wear a button-down shirt. So consider your environment. Consider what your appearance would look like as it relates to the topic, as well as your own personal brand. So keep all those things in mind. The one big piece of advice I would give you is to make sure that the clothes you wear, your shirt, because that's pretty much all people will see, make sure that you try and wear a solid pattern, nothing that has like pinstripes or anything like that that can kind of look funny on a computer monitor. Camera position. So you know how I was talking about all these great live interviews that we're seeing on cable news right now with people doing them from Skype or WebEx or some other platform. If you watch, one of the things you'll notice is that it looks like you can tell people are at their computer because they're looking down. You can see that they're looking down at their computer monitor. as they're, as they're doing these interviews. That's an easy look to avoid. First of all, it's unflattering to be shot, from the lower angle up. And it's an easy thing to fix. If you are, regardless of whether you're on a laptop or an iPhone or whatever device you're using, just make sure that is that the camera's eye level, so that you're not looking down or you're not looking up, and make sure that it's on a surface that's steady, so it's not shaking around too much. On number 3, centering yourself. Generally you want to be in the middle of the shot, depending on the situation. If there's something interesting that's going on behind you, or maybe you have an infographic that you want to make sure is in the shot, then it's okay to be a little bit on the side. But for the most part, you generally want to be in the center for these. Lighting is another thing you want to consider. Make sure that that you're not backlit. So if you're doing it in front of a window, it's better for you to be facing the window, because that's going to help light your face, as opposed to having the window behind you, because all that's going to do is make you just look like a shadowy figure. So make sure that you have decent lighting, and that's not hard to do. You don't have to go out and get a professional lighting kit to make it happen. Make sure you have lamps placed in the right position, and again, that you're not doing it in front of a sunlit window that's directly behind you. If you're doing it outside, I wouldn't do it at noon, when the sun is at its highest, casting dark shadows on your face. Just keep those things in mind. Again, we're not looking for perfection here, but you do want to look good. Consider your backdrop. Everything in your shot sends a message, and sometimes it can be the opposite of the message that you're trying to send, particularly if it's in a cluttered office. Or, I think we all saw the video years ago of Sarah Palin in front of the turkeys that were being slaughtered. So keep in mind that everything in your backdrop sends some sort of a message, even if it's not related to the topic that you're discussing. 6, shut the door. Sometimes it can be cute if a pet or, a child comes roaming in. Again, just keep in mind, how you personally can handle those disruptions, and how those disruptions might be received by the audience that's that's participating in your town hall. You obviously want to be heard, so make sure that you're not speaking too softly. Keep your mic very close. Don't stand too far away from your computer or your phone if you're using an iPhone. They do make microphones that you can actually plug into your cell phone if you want to do that. That's an option. Or, you can also even just plug in your earbuds. Again, people are used to seeing that sort of look when we're talking about something like a Facebook Live. And finally, you do have the option of upgrading your camera as well. So if you're working off a laptop that has a bad camera, or it's an older laptop, or you just want something that looks a little bit better, there are lots of good options that are out there. I'll give you a couple in case you want to write them down. One is the Logitech C920. And there's also another one by Logitech called Brio, B-R-I-O, which is 4K and ultra high definition. Another camera option that you could use, again, if you want an external camera that you can plug in, is one called iSkin. So kind of like how iPhone is written, this is iSkin. And then the second word is Capture, which is K-A-P-C-H-R. So those are some additional camera options for you. Once you're ready to go live, as we talked about in the very beginning, this is where your message comes in. You want to deliver brief remarks. Don't feel like you have to go too long, but also don't feel like you can't go longer than a minute. Go as long as you need to go, and no less or no more than that. There's no hard and fast rule. But again, this is where having notes, your talking points in place is going to help you from going overboard and rambling too much. Or if you're someone who's prone to getting nervous before doing something like this, they'll also, again, help you avoid forgetting what it is you meant to say. Take questions in the comments section. That's very important. Otherwise, it's not a town hall. It's just a webinar and it's just you talking. So make sure that you're taking questions, and again, making sure that you're not shying from the hard ones. And finally, acknowledge people by name. So when people type a question in the comment section, you'll be able to see their name. So you can say, hey, Mark, thanks so much for asking that question. Here's what you need to know. They appreciate that. It really shows that you're paying attention. Some additional tips and do's and don'ts. First, it's incredibly important to remember that when you're doing something like this, and in fact, anything you do on social media, even if you consider it just your private account, is on the record. So whatever you say can and will be used against you down the road if you do something that is that's controversial or inappropriate. So that applies to these town halls as well. Even if you didn't invite a reporter, everything you do is on the record, and everything on the internet lives forever. Some additional do's and don'ts: don't argue with trolls. So again, if you've got someone who's just asking difficult questions just to give you a hard time, and especially if there's someone who's kind of a known troll, there's no need in getting into arguments with them. I've already said this a few times: don't just take the easy questions. Don't be afraid to be human. Again, people aren't looking for perfection here. You know, if you stumble, if you make a mistake, it's okay to go back and say, oh, sorry, I actually said that wrong. This is really what I meant to say. You're human, and people expect that, and people are generally more forgiving in an environment like this. So just remember that you're just talking to people, just like you would try to talk with them one-on-one. You're doing the same thing in this scenario. You do want to encourage people to follow you on all your social media channels. So if they're not already following you on Facebook, if this is someone who decided to come watch because they saw you promoted on Twitter or Instagram, encourage them to follow you here on Facebook. Most of the people who will likely attend this will be people who are already followers of yours. So let them know that you also have accounts with Twitter and others as well. You can also encourage people to contact you directly, via email, or they can send you direct messages, on this platform, on Facebook. But encourage them to get in touch with you directly, because again, this is one of those things where we're trying to connect with people, and we're trying to make it as personal as possible in an environment that's not particularly personal. So encourage them, if they've got any follow-up questions or whatever, that they can email you or give you a call in your office. And of course, make sure you practice before you do your very first town hall. So hopefully that's given you a good overview. Mark, I'm certainly fine with you sharing this presentation. There is one slide that I noticed was missing, so I can add that in there before you share if you want to do that. Sorry, I don't know where that went, but I'll get that one fixed for you for sure. But thank you all so much for listening.
Great. Thank you, John. And yes, if you could send that updated slides, we will provide those slides for attendees. We will do so shortly after this webinar. I would now like to introduce Jasmine Kay, the Communication Director for Ulster County. Ulster County has been doing regular Facebook Live events with the county executive, and you can see him here on your screens now. That is County Executive Pat Ryan. Jasmine, please take it from here. Can you tell us about some of the things, the lessons learned, how you have been going about putting together Facebook Live events in Ulster County?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having us join you all. So the Ulster County Executive has been doing a series of Facebook town halls since the moment that we had our first case on coronavirus. So we have done a variety of town halls. We've done Facebook Live town halls where we've taken press questions. We've also invited the congressman to join us. Today we did a joint town hall with the county executive from Dutchess County. And as you see here, which was kind of our most basic one was a Facebook Live town hall with the Commissioner of Health, Carol Smith. So I'm going to kind of go through this really quickly, and please ask, just let me know if you have any questions. But it's been a really effective form. As you can see here, through all of the right-hand side has some of our analytics. We've been reaching 10,000 residents on all of our town hall, all of these Facebook town halls. So the engagement is really high, in addition to asking comments and having that continuing engagement. Our audience has been primarily, which is an interesting thing, has been kind of, as you see, there's like women that are in their 40s, but again, we're trying to reach everyone, but a lot of people that are kind of coming to this forum to answer their questions, a lot of moms, people like that. So to kind of bring through, just go through the process there. But if you look at I'll go back quickly for a second, but it's just quick on setup. We have a camera set up here. We have 2 separate microphones when we have someone else who's there, and then flags. And then we have the laptop there where the county executive is monitoring questions. But our process, so we advise it. So we do a media advisory, and then we also post on all of our social media channels. So that means Facebook and Twitter about the time and when to tune in the day prior, and then do it also usually the hour before and that morning, and just keep on posting it out. And then as soon as we go live, we also share about it. But at the beginning, we share a message that's similar to this. So you can see here, please leave any questions here, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. One of the things that we've been doing is really staying engaged while people are there, just to show that, hey, we are here. This should be not the county executive themselves, but some communication staffer who is able to be in touch with them. And then also to make sure that they know to leave their questions here, and that we're going to try and get to as many as we can. And then responding to them. So the way that we've been screening questions a few separate ways. The one that, for this one, the county executive himself was kind of going through them, but then that was a little bit, that's not a skill that comes innately. So we started to send them also to directly to his phone or to his computer, the questions that we thought were the best ones to be asked, and also were the most frequent questions that were asked. So this is an example I show here too, one person asking some of the most common questions. So if you're doing town halls on this, which you may get a lot about, supplies. So then the county executive mentioned that the Attorney General's office has a form for this. And then what we would do is I would then comment back as soon as he mentions links, things like that, because people are oftentimes looking for them. I would comment back with those forms and things like that. Another question you'll see here is from someone who, this is just one example, but a lot of people are talking about how this economically is impacting them. So we have always ready kind of in the sheet here, the number and contact info for our economic development line. Another question we got a lot was about childcare. That was something that we were still developing. And so you'll see in the third column here, also we did some follow-up. So once we had those guidelines, we then commented back at them. And this was a way to kind of keep it as a conversation. So even if we aren't able to get to every question, I mean, the volume we're getting like 300 to 500 comments on these, which is awesome. But obviously we keep these an hour long, so we are not able to get back to every question, but we do try and make it feel like a concerted effort that we are listening to them and paying attention, and then going back to those questions afterwards, which has been something that I think our residents have been appreciating. But that's kind of overall how we have been doing these forms. And we're happy to take any questions about kind of implementing this with your own town halls. And yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jasmine. So I do have some questions that have come in, and I will start taking those questions as I get them in. If you could please, if you have a question, please type them into your question box in the corner. First question, or a question, is, can board members participate remotely? This is for either John or Jasmine. Can people participate who are not with you when you're doing the Facebook Live?
This is John. They're not No, not using a camera. It doesn't, it's not set up that way, so it's not like a web conference in that regard. You know, a better platform like that would be something along the lines of Google Hangout.
Okay, great. Facebook Live seems to be lacking in providing accessibility, closed captioning. Any good solutions for that?
This is Jasmine here. So we have turned on auto closed captioning after. I think there are still building plugins and things like that, but one thing that you can do is make sure that your closed captioning is turned on, so as soon as the broadcast ends, it will auto generate those captions after, which I know isn't super ideal, and maybe John, you have other ways to do that, but that's what we've been doing here in Ulster.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Is there a better time of the day to plan for a Facebook Live town hall than another time? Have you had success at any specific time of the day?
I would leave it to Jasmine to answer that part in terms of how it's worked in the past. I think in the environment that we're in right now, we haven't ever been in this situation before, so there's not any data with that respect. But I'll let Jasmine go from here.
Yeah, so we were consistently kind of doing a noon time, which wound up working pretty well. We're kind of in a non-traditional time, exactly as John was saying, where people's hours are pretty flexible. So we have seen pretty steady engagement at all different times. We did one at 2 yesterday, we did one at 11, and it hasn't really been seeming to impact viewership that much, because I think right now, this is the issue that a lot of people are thinking about, and they have the flexibility. So I think I would recommend doing it during the day more than in the evening for right now, but I really don't think that time, right now, everyone's pretty flexible.
On average, Jasmine, how many viewers are you getting for on a live town hall or live Facebook Live?
Yeah, so we usually have like 600 active viewers, but then people will go back and watch it. So that's why I said our reach is 10,000. You know, the initial ones that we did reached over 43,000, and right now our Facebook outreach is reaching over 100,000 people. So we're scaling that for sure, and that's, you know, we've been working at it. But on average, we've been having, you know, 600 people that are on watching it live as it goes. But then what's great about these is, and you want to make sure if you're doing this on your device to save it to your page, because then people can watch it afterwards, and then press can watch it afterwards. So we also see that almost double afterwards of people tuning in and watching it later.
Great, thank you very much. We have, here's another question that has come in. We have done some streaming to Facebook Live, typically using an iPhone on a tripod, sometimes close up, but usually a press conference setting. Do you have a recommendation for a microphone that is wireless or mounts to a phone or tripod? I've seen the shotgun style that plug into the mount on the phone, but didn't know how those would work for situations where the people may be 20 feet away.
This is John. I have not seen a solution with a mic that has a longer cord like that. You know, there are clip-on mics that you can use that can plug directly into the phone, but right now they're limited to 6-foot cords.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions out there? Please type them in. I also wanted to just let people know who are on this call that we have a team at NYSAC that can help you if you're having trouble setting any of these a Facebook Live event up. You can contact me, Mark Levine, M. Levine at NYSAC.org, and we have a team of communication specialists, Tom Oldfather and Kate Pierce, and we are here to help you should you need any help in setting one up. Can a transcript be generated a new question in from the audience.
Facebook doesn't do that. There are transcription services. No specific names come to mind because I haven't found one that I have a particular allegiance to. But there are transcription services, but not one straight from Facebook.
Okay, well that appears to, we appear to be out of questionings. So again, I thank you both for joining us. I thank you all for joining us. I thank John Summers for lending his expertise with us this afternoon. And I thank Jasmine Kay for talking about the experiences that Ulster County is having here through the coronavirus outbreak. Thank you all very much. And please, if you have any follow-up questions, please send them along to me, mlevine@nisac.org. Thank you very much. Have a great day.